Hello everybody and welcome to the first video of 2022. This is my recap of all of the bourbons and American whiskeys that I reviewed formally in 2021. Now, just to clear up some confusion that happened with last year's video, these are only going to be whiskeys that I actually did a full review of. These are not things that happened to come out that maybe I didn't even try. These are just ones that I've bought like a 750ml of and that I've had to a considerable degree where I feel like I can give an overall opinion after having quite a bit of it. So let's go ahead and get into this list. Now, I will also say that I made it a vow to myself in 2021 to treat myself nice. And I mostly bought whiskeys that were pretty good. And it was very, very rare that I had a whiskey that I didn't love. So let's start off with one of those that I didn't love, though. Starting at the bottom of the list, we've got the Iron Smoke, forgot the name, the Iron Smoke Casket Strength. This is the Iron Smoke Casket Strength. It was just disappointing in a lot of ways, right? So it was expensive and it was not really anything special. It had kind of this malty flavor to it that was interesting enough to get a rating of try it, but not enough for me to suggest that you go out and buy this thing. I think if you ever saw this in a bar, which how often are any of us going to bars right now, but if you ever saw it in a bar, maybe give it a shot just to see if it's your thing. But for me, it's totally not. And the price point really dropped it down for me. So that was a rating of try it. I would almost reduce that to just ignore it at this point. But let's move on. Kind of a surprise, one that I was actually really looking forward to and was disappointed when it showed up this low on the list, was the Woodford Wheated Whiskey. Now, this ended up getting my rating of ignore it. And I've drank a bit of this with some other friends, actually, people who specifically like wheat whiskey. And all of us are just on the fence about it. I think for me, the biggest issue is that it's barely a wheat whiskey. Woodford could lean heavily into all of the different expressions that it does. In this case, it didn't. And really, in most cases, it doesn't. Just usually it's just barely legal. And this one just didn't do it for me. So anyway, that one gets an ignore it from me. Up next, moving into things that I actually like. Everything else from here on out is a buy it. So surprisingly, it had taken me years to bother getting into Mellow Corn. Now, why do I rate this one over something, an $80 whiskey, right? Well, frankly, price point's a big part of it. When you look at a $17 whiskey called Mellow Corn that looks like this, you do not expect quality, but that's exactly what you get. You end up with something that is totally drinkable, something that you can fiddle around with basically no real expense. And honestly, it tastes pretty good. For 100% corn whiskey, they can be very hit or miss, and more often than not, they're miss. In this case, it's a hit. Heaven Hill really did a very good job with this and kept the price extremely low. So impressed overall. Buy it. Next, Fighting Cock. This one's great. It really is. Like, it was another one that was just a total, call it a hidden gem, really, because most people don't review this one. Most people don't know about this one, and most people don't try this one. This serves several different purposes. Number one is that it's pretty tasty, right? Especially if you're going to just drink your bourbon with an ice cube or something. I actually think that's probably the best way to drink this one. Doesn't mean it tastes bad, more just that it's refreshing, right? Like it's a fine whiskey, and if you chill out on a couch drinking it, you're going to enjoy it. But also use it to practice making cocktails. Use it to take to a frat party. Use it to bring to any party, really. It's got a funny name, so that's kind of always a bit of a fun thing. And if you don't tell people what it's worth, they're probably not going to guess that it's about $20, maybe even less in some cases. So definitely you got to buy it, surprisingly, from me. But also, if you just look around the Whiskey Tube community, other people agree with me. And it's hitting above its weight. All right. Next, let's move into some of the really good stuff, right? So we've got the Elijah Craig Straight Rye. This one moving into our first rye of the day. We've got the Elijah Craig, right? This one took a little while for me to finally review, as many of these do. And when I finally did, I will say that I was surprised. I did like it. It wasn't as blow me away as I had hoped it would be. You know, I had been kind of coming off of the Elijah Craig barrel proofs, I suppose, and maybe so that I thought that it would be a little bit more robust. But once I set my expectations properly, I started realizing that this is a very solid rye, especially for the price, which I'll put up here because I kind of forget what it costs at the moment. But I do know that it was fairly priced. Now, I often refer people to Pikesville as a rye that I think that they should try. Obviously, New Riff does great stuff, but the price point there is a little different. But this is another one that would be a great rye to start out with, if not enjoy just casually. So this one just barely beats out these two. But of the more premium stuff that I'm going to review, this is still at the bottom of the list, but it's still good. This still got to buy it. All right, next is going to be Angel's Envy. This one's almost gone. Funny story about this. So Angel's Envy, I kind of did a great video on this. I actually put a little extra effort into the B-roll on it. Had a lot of fun doing it. My kids actually really liked that I yelled at the bottle to stop doing the hallelujah thing at me, if you remember what that is. But anyway, this is just a very good bottle. Angel's Envy doesn't need me to sell it for them. It's just really tasty, and I'm happy to have reviewed it this year. This is specifically the port wine finish, by the way. One thing to know about this is that, the price does fluctuate a bit, which is a little surprising. So if you're looking to buy it, make sure you're not overpaying. You can find it around for about $60, $55 to $60. So make sure you don't spend $80 on it from somebody who's just trying to sell you a cool looking bottle. All right. Next, we've only got two left. So this one, Rare Breed, Wild Turkey Rare Breed Rye. This is a fantastic rye. I really liked this, and I didn't love the Rare Breed bourbon. I know that I'm in a minority there. So when I went to review this one, I was very worried that I was going to dislike it as well. But thankfully, I was surprised, and I was pleasantly surprised that it was very, very good. It's definitely worth your money. I'm just trying to think of more fun things to say about it. I know I just reviewed it in Thanksgiving, but some of the detail are kind of escaping me at the moment, other than that I just really like this one. In fact, as I'm kind of looking at it, I think I might have this one after I'm done filming. So if you're in the mood for a rye, it's a really good one to buy. All right, now, drum roll. So my bourbon of the year, now given there's not a ton to choose from here, but this one's still really good, and I feel like even if I had twice as many bourbons, this one would still be right near the top, is the Old Forester 1920. Many of you that know this channel probably saw this one coming, but the Old Forester 1920 is just fantastic. I find myself going to it all the time. I share it with people who come over. I ended up giving it a rating of buy it, but the more that I drink it and love it, I see myself buying another bottle of this, which is very rare for me. You could imagine doing what I do. I don't rebuy bottles all that often, only because it's kind of just, it's an option that I could have had something I've never had before, right? But in the case of 1920, that is one that I love to share. I love to drink. I've had it in every way that you could imagine, cocktails, straight, ice, water, sharing it. I've even blended it with some other stuff just to see what kind of fun stuff I could do. But the 1920 is just fantastic. If you don't have this, or if you have never had it, it is very much worth your money, and you should go buy it soon, like today. You got nothing else going on, right? Just get off your couch. You can watch the rest of this video later, but go buy the 1920. All right, so this is a bit of a smorgasbord. One thing I do want to say is I have some honorable mentions, because I did review a few other whiskeys on live streams this year. Now, I didn't want to put them in this formal lineup only because I didn't have the 750 of it. In most cases, I usually only had like a 50 mil or maybe like a 200 or so, like in the case of Courage and Conviction, right? Which gets an honorable mention. I did 3 of their different expressions. I actually did 4. I did the regular Courage and Conviction, but I've reviewed that before. So of the 3 new ones I tried, there was the sherry finish, the bourbon cask finish, and the cuvee cask finish. I was not as big of a fan of the sherry, as I believe Ed from the Rocket Review actually liked it the most. Clifton and Ed both did the live stream with me. If you'd like to check it out, it's up here or up there. I always forget which side it's on. I think it's over here. Either way, you can find the link down in the description below as well. Ed and Clifton both did this with me. Ed really liked the sherry. I didn't love the sherry very much. I liked the bourbon fine, and both Clifton and I both loved the cuvee cask finish. So that one was my favorite of the 3. So if you find yourself, wanting to go buy one of those expressions, I would suggest getting the cuvee if your flavors usually line up a bit with me. If they don't, then maybe you like the sherry a bit more. But either way, Courage and Conviction as a brand is something worth purchasing and trying out for yourself. The only other one that I really did was the Woodford Reserve Chocolate Malt Whisper, which I did think was very good, but it was also a very unique taste, and I don't think is going to be for everybody. I would still suggest, if you see it and you feel like buying into it, I think it's something cool. But I also have a hard time recommending it because it's extremely expensive. So those did it for my honorable mentions. All right, I'm going to have another video coming out, I believe tomorrow, on Irish whiskies, and then the following day will be Scotch whiskies. So I'm trying to break this up. I did a lot of variety this year, and actually I'm probably going to have an additional video just real quick for world whiskies, because I did some Japanese and I did some Canadian whiskies as well this year. All right, so I will see you tomorrow for Irish whiskey. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and cheers. Go out and buy the 1920.